Hi, my name is Brigitta Schuchert, and I'm a current research assistant at a DC-based think tank working in their South Asia program, as well as the deputy editor of an online publication called South Asian Voices, which is an online policy platform that publishes strategic analysis of South Asia. Day to day, the main focus of my work involves working with authors to edit their pieces, assisting on longer-term research projects of the program, as well as developing some of my own research and writing. I came to my current role in a bit of a roundabout way, and prior to this position, I spent 3 years working abroad as a writing and speaking fellow with New York University's international campuses in Abu Dhabi and Shanghai. That position involved working closely with each university's respective academic resource or writing center to tutor students in academic writing or in presentation skills, as well as working closely with professors teaching writing-intensive courses. As an undergrad, I had known that international affairs and writing were two main interests of mine, but I wasn't really sure what a career involving both of those things looked like. And as a senior, I spent a lot of time looking for opportunities that would take me abroad to build up my international experience and potentially give me some time to figure out what I wanted my next step to be career-wise, if that meant going back to school or maybe pursuing career options in a different field. So in my time living abroad, I really developed a deeper interest in looking at foreign policy and current events, and particularly was drawn to questions related to defense policy and international security issues. So this includes questions looking at international conflict and resolution, as well as potentially defense spending and just international relations more broadly. So this drew me to a master's program back in DC, focused on international security, where I focused primarily on terrorism and sub-state violence, but had also developed a focus in South Asia, and particularly in China-South Asia relations after spending a couple of years working in China. So that background combined with a background in writing was what led to my current role, working sort of combining the two in an editing position that focuses primarily on strategic and security issues in South Asia. So the main global and / international component of my career is following political, economic, and security developments in South Asia quite closely, and that's sort of part of the day-to-day job, as well as working closely with authors from South Asia to develop and edit their writing. And over the course of the week, other components might involve going to events related to South Asian security dynamics with both practitioners and scholars and analysts from the US as well as South Asia. Having a background or some experience with a foreign language is certainly a valuable asset to this type of work. In particular, not only knowing the language and being able to potentially have more conversations or look at research and materials available in a different language other than English, but also as a way of showing an interest in a region and an interest in engaging not only with English resources on that region. So I have a bit of a background in Mandarin, and although I find that I am not using it day to day, it's been helpful for potentially doing some more research or being able to look at other source material, as well as a pretty natural connecting point between other people who have similar interest areas or are working on similar issues. So I'd say the main ways that I found that I've been using foreign language are both for some research as well as just a way to potentially connect with people. So in terms of what skills did I develop or wish I had developed as a student that would have been helpful, I would say again, foreign language. I actually came to being more interested in foreign languages as a master's student, and as an undergrad, looking back, I wish I had taken more advantage of the resources I had while at university to really get to a point of language learning where I was much more comfortable using a language or conversational. So I studied Mandarin as a master's student, and then as an undergraduate I studied Spanish, but I had only studied Spanish in a classroom setting and never had the opportunity to enter an immersive environment or learn in that setting. And I think if you ever have the opportunity to be in an immersive language environment or go to a country where that language is spoken, I would definitely encourage you to take it. That I think has been instrumental in getting beyond the sort of formal classroom style learning to a more conversational conversational and sort of usable version of that language. And second, I would say, I think writing is a huge skill, and it's a pretty versatile skill. It's one that no matter what career you enter into, you will probably be using. And having a balance between writing both for research and writing for a policy audience, particularly in this line of work in particular. In my undergrad, I was primarily focused on longer research writing, and then when I went back to school, I had to do a big shift and learn how to write in ways that were much more to the point and could really take a very complex issue and sort of hone in on what the core components are. So the more that you're able to sort of develop your writing skills and writing not only analytically, but also writing in a way that is very concise and clear, that will be incredibly useful. And I would say not only in this particular field, but in a number of areas. And I also would say some background, even just very basic, in some data and quantitative skills. That's something that, looking back, I wish I had developed more, because I sort of had to learn as I was going and figure that out. So having a little bit of background in data is incredibly useful, even if you're not going into a field that seems very quantitative skills heavy. Being able to sort of work with large amounts of data can be really useful in social science and political sciences as well. So my main advice for students who are interested in this career is don't be afraid to talk to people and ask questions if you're curious about how they ended up where they are now. I found that particularly in this line of work, people have often come from really different backgrounds and really different undergraduate experiences or master's experiences, and people contribute different expertise and interest areas. So if you see someone that you think has a job or is doing work that you would find interesting, people are generally willing to talk about the steps they took that led them there. And even for me, looking back and trying to figure out what I wanted to do next, a lot of it was through seeing who was doing something that seemed interesting and looking into sort of what steps they had taken. So people are generally, willing to help and talk, so don't be afraid to ask somebody if they will talk to you on the phone or over Skype. And then I would say just having curiosity and a willingness to ask questions. I think curiosity about the world, and once you have a question that interests you, being able to, think about that and explore it is incredibly helpful in sort of figuring out how you want to potentially carve out a niche for yourself, or what interest areas or questions you may be interested in exploring further. And then finally, I would say if you have the opportunity to have international experiences, whether through study abroad or working abroad in the short term or longer term, I would say that is a pretty invaluable skill. It also helps contribute to a number of other skills that I think are really useful in the work environment if you are interested in working in the US or working abroad. For instance, adaptability, the ability to be flexible and work in multiple locations. So if you have the chance to study or work internationally, I would certainly say that could be quite useful.